And welcome to a new episode of a Dynasty Mind. My name is Chris Chung. This is a feature of fakepigskin.com. We've been going through a series of draft guides and guides that will help people understand the upcoming rookie draft class. We are about 11 days away from the draft. It's an exciting year, exciting time of fantasy football and football fans alike. And tonight I have the pleasure of interviewing the guy who developed the Orange Report and the Orange Juice, the FF Ghost. You'll know him as the FF Ghost from DLF. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for taking some time off your Sunday, kind of discuss about your Orange Report. I have been a purchaser of your report, and I find it very helpful in helping me in my Dynasty process. So tell us, how did you come up with this idea, and how many years have you been putting this product on for sale?
So it started, about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm trying to remember the exact year, but around about 5 or 6 years ago, I was and still am a senior writer for DLF, and just was developing my own kind of prospect overviews, and started to think, hey, this is kind of cool content. What if I put it all together and offer it as kind of content for DLF? Initially, that started as kind of a rookie draft board. So I was creating it and allowing subscribers to DLF to kind of view my takes on players, and was able to collect video on the different prospects and just kind of provide it in a nice, almost draft board view. Um, the more that I did that, the more it seemed like, hey, this might be kind of uh, a better product if it was a single document that people could print out if they wanted to take it with them to drafts, or view on their phone in a fairly easy manner. And that's how the Orange Report was born. For the first, I don't know, year or two, maybe three, uh, while I was at DLF doing this, um, both products were kind of released in tandem. After that 2 to 3 year time span, I just started to do the Orange Report by itself. It just kind of made more sense, and was a better way to get it into the hands of people who actually would be able to use it in a number of different ways.
Awesome. And just for us to understand, how have you evolved? Every year you produce the report, you make it look better, and just walk us through your process.
Okay, so yeah, over the years, it has definitely gone over a few facelifts, or gone through a few facelifts, I should say. Um, Initially, it was more just getting that information across. As the years went by, I wanted to get more and more information across to people, and wanted to make it as easily digestible as possible. So uh, I almost cringe when I look at the first year or two of the reports, and not in terms of pure work or anything like that, because at that point, that was the process I was working with, and it worked for me at the time. But that process has evolved, and the product has evolved to a degree where I believe it's a very polished piece of work, but it's not just pure polish either. There's a lot of content behind there. There's a lot of information that people can dig into and reference, and I have people coming back to me a year later saying, "Oh, I used it all season long." All of a sudden this guy crops up out of nowhere, and like, who is this guy? And they'll go back and they'll look through and say, "Oh, okay, well, Ghost, he had looked at him at one point, referenced through it, said, okay, well, this might be a good fit for my team." So that's kind of cool. In terms of the actual process and how it's evolved, um, I'm a big, huge proponent of looking into time management techniques, and how you can actually save time um, by minimizing the amount of repetition that you're doing. So I've become much more in depth, have a much more in depth knowledge of Excel now, that I use as my primary tool to kind of structure data, and um, I've always loved Excel, but you learn new stuff, and the more stuff that you learn, the better the product actually becomes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely a advantage of having this tool because the time that people spend looking at films, using the data, aggregating the data, that takes a lot of time.
Yes.
And, I'm, for one, am grateful for people like you who post their guides and help us save time and you feel prepared when it comes time to draft. So tell me, what can buyers kind of expect when purchasing your guide, and who are your targeted audience for this?
So my guide is my defining factor with the guide is that it's kind of the fantasy player's guide to the draft, whereas uh, other products focus solely on just the draft as from a NFL standpoint. The Orange Report actually digs in and says this is why it will make sense for you to draft this guy to your fantasy team, and specifically Dynasty owners. It kind of goes into like how it helps your team in terms of depth. There's a whole aspect to IDP. I review. I mean, not review, but I um, do write-ups for this year. Will be over 100 different IDP players, but IDP has always been a huge factor in the report since day one. So IDP players out there, this is kind of your guide to go and get.
Awesome. So I'm going to present to everyone a sample of last year's guide so you can see how um, detailed, and I really love the color scheme. It really is easy on the eyes. And you break down a lot of the time management really stands out now that you tell me about it because it's really putting all the data that we get from their workouts, from their using the spider. That's not a spider web, but it's close. Looks close to the spider web.
Yeah, it's kind of my variation on it. It's more of like a sunburst almost.
Hmm. And that really just puts into perspective of where it is. Then you put even the metrics of the BMI speed score. You have Patrick Mahomes this year. So this is what you're getting, folks. This is a very colorful guide, and just from last year, it's 264 pages, and you're getting a lot of information on a single player. From just talk a little bit about how did you come up with the name Orange Report?
So Orange is actually an acronym that stands for Original, Rookie, and Next Generation Evaluation Report. So kind of a huge fan of acronyms. Anyone who knows me knows that I love acronyms. Since day one doing fantasy stuff, I've usually had a lot of my products acronymed out. Whether it goes back to with DLF, I did like the HAL report, which was trying to remember something in longevity, health and longevity report, and then there was trying to remember the other one. There's one that is used for auction formats, and just love acronyms. That's how I came up with it.
I'm sure our fans, or your fans specifically, would know because you are a big name in the Dynasty community, and your products continue to evolve and really help subscribers to DLF to be prepared and dominate their Dynasty league. So tell me, Ryan, the guide for many, it's straightforward. They try to look at how they're ranked or what the expectations are, but how can people benefit more? What is your intention? Like, how can people get the most out of your guide? If you will, how can they squeeze the most information out of your Orange?
So I like providing as much information as possible about prospects within a nice, easy to digest page of information. So as you had shown with the 2017 rather version, I try and use up all the space possible on a page to try and get as much across. This year's version, I've even done more with getting that information across. There's going to be some more aspects to the report that weren't in previous reports. Some new ways to kind of glean some additional information and really, as you said, kind of squeeze the most out of it. In addition to each player having their own page that goes over their workout, their pluses and minuses, height, weight, scores, all kinds of that stuff. I've like I said, I've added some more, but in addition to just those pages, there's also an additional information section that will group players in a different way to make it a little more understandable, a little easier. That way you can take maybe one of those things, one of those pages into your draft if you were a little short on stuff to be able to carry, and it will break down like, hey, these are the players that should go in round 1 to 2 of the NFL draft. These are ones that should go in round 1 to 2 of your fantasy draft, and then broke down by position as well. So there's just a lot of information in there, and I love it when people come back to me like a few months later and they say, hey, I'm still using this report. I mean, that to me is all worth it at that point.
Awesome. So thank you so much again for just taking your time to explain what we can expect. Your fans who are already familiar with your work will gain more this year, but that's what I'm hearing. And for those who are not familiar, this is a great time to buy it because it'll help you in this upcoming rookie class, which I find to be one of the most talented deep class in the last few years. And we're looking forward to your thoughts and your assessments of them. So tell us, Ryan, where are your targeted release dates, and where can they find them, and how much did it cost?
Okay, so target release date is in about a week, which puts it about a week before the NFL draft. So we're kind of right in between. We're a week out from probably the release date, and then another week after that from the actual NFL draft. I like to target that area because it allows me just to get as much into that guide as possible. And this year's guide, as you had already referenced, is going to be the biggest yet. I just finished putting in the player evaluations. So right before I came on this broadcast, I actually put the last guy in. I just got to do the additional information. Not a whole lot to that. I've got a process kind of in place, and I'm all about processes, let me tell you. So that should be right on target. About a week's time, we'll be enjoying the fruits of months and months of labor. That said, the report is $7.99, one of the most affordable guides out there, and for what my customers are paying as opposed to what they get, I believe it's a huge value, really a huge value. They can go ahead and pre-order right now on the ffghost.com. And the second I release it, the pre-orders will get it. I'm kind of playing and toying with the idea of maybe even giving it to the pre-orders a little bit early. We'll see how that goes. If not, there might be a little something extra for the pre-orders in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information. You will find a link in the description of this video as well. Ryan, you mentioned that there's the orange report and there's the orange juice. Both of them can be found on this website. One is for the pre-draft, and the other one is for post-draft after we figure out their fit and kind of projecting what their roles will be. So this is all awesome information, all packed into one. The biggest one yet, guys, and all you have to do is give up Starbucks for a day. That's all it costs.
That's great right there. Who needs Starbucks, right? I mean,
I know. My own coffee nowadays. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. I hope people get a lot from this video and are excited to report to your draft guide. Guys, you can pre-order this and it will be released within a week's time. You'll be prepared ahead of your league mates. This is a great guide for fantasy and dynasty owners alike. Thank you so much again for hanging out with us. You can find me at FF Dynasty 101. You can hit us up on Twitter if you have more questions about the report and how you can get more out of it. You can always hit up Ryan at the FF Ghost. So thank you so much again. Thank you for joining us, and have a good evening.
Thank you.